Well, have a seat, Obi. I'm about to start, so come on now. And we're set. And one. Where's
Rich? Yes. Where's Aisha? She's on her way. You know, she's working with the counselor on that thing. Stuff that happens. Press conference is Monday.
All right, good morning, everyone. We got to do better with that one. That was about a Trump pop. And we got to be on beat, too, folks, okay? One band, one sound. You didn't see drum line? Okay. Let's try it again. Good morning. I appreciate you all. Thank you for that one. Thank you for coming to the final satellite edition of 2019. Give yourselves a round of applause, please. I am Aaron Hall, Community Liaison. For those of you who don't know, I am not Councilman Tate, so if you're new, please don't. You see folks walking in like, that's not him. I don't think he looks like the picture. But no, that's not me. I'm Aaron, Community Liaison. I am here joined by my colleague, Reginald Alexander. Y'all can do better than that, eh? All right. We have Yelena, Special Projects and Partnerships. Yeah! And we are joined also by Miss Aisha Mitchell, Communications. You gonna get her the loudest one. I thought y'all was on my team, man. You know what? That's okay. Anywho, Reggie, the wireless mic on you too, to be sure?
Wireless mic right over there next to the little.
All right, I'm gonna need you to grab that in 1 second. For those of you who don't know, we have our satellite hour meetings every first and third Friday from 11 to 1. We have our District 1 potluck on what day, folks? December 7th. What we need from you, since it is a potluck, is for you all to bring the dish. So if you have not already, please sign up on the sheet at the table, letting us know what you're going to bring. We need food from you. We don't ask you for much, but this is a yes. Reginald's going to talk. Matter of fact, Reginald, go ahead and talk about the potluck for a bit, please.
In the beginning. No, seriously, potluck. Okay, we have it every year. It's a great event. It's a chance for District 1 residents to get together, kind of decompress. It's not a big agenda. We'll have a little bit of entertainment, but it's an opportunity for everybody to get together, spend some time together, and share some food together, and just kind of decompress after a year filled with meetings and, you know, lots of other things going on throughout the year. So we look forward to it. It takes a lot of work, but we definitely look forward to it. We have several people who are here today who have volunteered with us in the past, and we appreciate that. We just hope you guys are able to make it out. If you can't stay for the entire meeting, entire event, that's fine. but we just hope you try to make it and stop by. It's just an opportunity to have some fun at the end of the year. So December 7th, 11 a.m. at Detroit Community Schools, 12675 Burt Road. It's between Fullerton and Southfield Freeway, I-96.
I have no clue how Reginald memorizes all the addresses to
Because
all
I
these
do all
different
those
buildings.
flyers and I look at it 1,000 times, so I remember.
But Reg, before you go, could you let
Yes.
people know some of the things we need for the potluck?
Oh,
in
for the
terms of
potluck,
dishes?
we're providing meats this year. So what we need is your best sides, salads, desserts, or veggies. So we want to make sure we have all of those things covered, but we're getting a lot of meat, so we should be good. Now, if you want to bring some meat, we're not saying don't, but we have that, we're trying to cover most of that. So we really need a sides, salads, desserts, and vegetables.
And you're also required to bring a portion just for me, okay?
Just for him.
Just for me.
Yes.
Okay, because clearly I'm malnourished. I need the food, okay? Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Reg. Give it up for Reg, folks. And are we doing canned goods?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good.
Okay, every year we
Thank
also
you, Mom.
partner with Forgotten Harvest. We're gonna have. Thank you for reminding me about that.
She-
We're gonna have a giant box by the sign-in table. So if you could bring any canned goods you have or non-perishable items, we'll put that into a box, and then Forgotten Harvest will come back and pick that up the Monday after the meeting.
And we've
So
donated over the years, what, over a ton of...
We've donated over well more than a ton, at least about 2 or 3 tons. Which a ton sounds like a lot, but after you get a bunch of cans in there, it adds up quickly. So hopefully you guys can come. You know, a few cans, a few it could be something that you like, something you don't like. Maybe taking up space in the cabinet. I don't know. Or you can go out and buy some, and but we'd appreciate it, and I'm sure the people who get their donations from Forgotten Harvest would appreciate it as well. So thank you very much.
And I don't know about anybody's religious affiliation, but I believe in being a blessing to other people. So we're asking you to join us in that cause. So we will see you on December 7th, right? And you're going to write what you're bringing to eat, folks. Everybody get quiet on that part. Like, we'll see you there. Yeah, what you bringing? I don't know. But hey, a turkey? Okay, man. Hey.
Who's bringing turkey?
An edible turkey, right?
Who said that?
Jive turkey.
Dressing.
All right. Okay.
Oh,
Make sure you get his information. Write that one
who
down.
said they're bringing the turkey?
The gentleman over there said he's bringing the turkey.
He's bringing the turkey? Oh, right
I
there.
don't know why he's pointing that. He's pointing
Oh.
over there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, but thank you.
All right, folks. So I will spare you all a lot of the details. I know I don't want to repeat anything the council's going to say, but what we want to do now is kind of introduce ourselves and let everyone know who's in the room. We'd like to know your first and last name, and if you have a community association or a group affiliation, let us know. So we're going to start over here with this gentleman right here, man.
We got this speaker.
Okay. So please try to avoid the speaker. You know, we're really working on our sound issues.
No, we're not working on sound issues. We're in front of it. It's going to get feedback.
Okay. Thank you. And folks, we also ask that you use the microphone too because we're streaming this live on social media. Everybody say hi to the folks at home. Hey! So if it's said here, it's said on camera. So you can use it as evidence. Please don't block the camera. Come on in, we got seats for you. Right here in the front, join me. You VIP, don't worry about it. Hey, how's it going, man? The microphone is not working. I don't know why. We try so hard to get it right.
Working now? Oh,
Okay, cool.
here.
Thanks.
Hope I'm not getting feedback. I'm Michael Sipa. I'm with Grandmont Rosedale Development Corporation.
GRDC. Okay. Cool. Gotcha.
I'm hoping I'm not getting feedback here, but yeah, this is my first meeting. I wanted to
How long have you been here?
just since September.
All right, pop quiz. What are the communities for GRDC?
We have North Rosedale Park, Minnox Park, Grandmont, and Grandmont number 1.
Good job. Give it up for him, folks. He did good. He's like, man, they got me here quizzing me. We're glad to have you, man.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, cool.
My name is Kevin Ball. I'm also here from Grandmont Rosedale Development Corporation. I've been there since August,
Okay.
and I'm there through AmeriCorps Vista.
Okay, cool. Got you. So, folks, if you're in the GRDC area, please stop by and say hello to these gentlemen. You guys have cards or telephone information? We'll talk about what you do for a second.
I'm working with GRDC as a volunteer coordinator, so I'm starting to learn more about outreach and getting people involved with the different events that are going on.
Okay.
And I do a lot of marketing things, really whatever they ask me to do.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool.
Pretty much in the same light. I'm a Master of Social Work intern from the University of Michigan.
Okay.
So I'm also starting to get ramped up, helping with the business corridor as well as some of more of our like new projects happening along Grand Line.
That's cool. Now you guys have a meeting coming up soon too, don't you?
Go Spartans!
We have a lot of meetings. We have a lot of
Hey,
MSU!
this is called hazing. We don't do that here. He'll catch on eventually, folks, if you ignore him. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of all the things we have. I know if you guys come to our office just down a mile on Grand River Avenue, you can see all the postings on our wall. I do know that there is a meeting happening for one of our. We're kind of helping facilitate it. There's like a really beautiful park design that's happening.
That's what I was
and we
referencing.
really want community input on this because it's important that it's beautiful for the people that are living here.
Yeah, and I think that's a point we often forget about too. We need community involvement. We talk about the Grand River Streetscape. People came out to meetings and said what they like, but if you check next door and go to community groups, people are angry about that. Who picked that? You did. I know. So thanks for passing the microphone. You can sit down now. You don't have to stand there. You're not trying to.
Alberta Williams, Bond Street, Blackwell.
Hey.
Gwendolyn Weathers.
Now, y'all know.
Charlene Fort.
Okay, speed round. I get it.
Clinton Fort.
We keep it on this side of the room, and then we can come over here. It's like hot potato. You guys have never gone this fast before.
Elby Dunsonberg Lasser.
Bird class.
Keith Williams, Vaughn Street Block Club.
One second, El, but we had a truck driving school as a District 1 monthly meeting business, and you weren't there, man. I was looking for you.
I was probably busy doing something else.
Driving a truck, maybe.
At Wayne County Community College, we also have a CDL program, and we have the construction program, which is free to the Wayne County residents. It's preparing our youth and some of our adults for a new career.
I'm going to pair you with them if you before you leave, all right? Oh, please keep the microphone up. I don't want to make them. Hello? Put the phone up. Okay, I got you. I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Barbara Poindexter, St. Mary's Block Club.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Good morning, Michael Williams. I'm a resident of Brightmore.
Okay.
My name is Elvis Smith. I'm in Higgin Block. The area is from Granville and Sits now.
Okay. And we've heard from you too, but if you got something else you want to say as you pass the microphone, we'll listen. Here you go. Roosevelt.
My name is Roosevelt Carter from Marlow Street.
Okay, he said he's Roosevelt Carlo.
I live on Marlow.
You gotta hold the microphone up, man.
Okay. I live on Marlow.
All right, man. All right, come here for all that.
Hello, I'm Mary Carter. I'm a homeowner on Marlow Street.
And I'm guessing you're with Roosevelt.
Yes, this is my spouse. And this is my first time here, and I should have come before. But because our street didn't get plowed this time, and I paid my taxes, I got upset, and I said, I'm going.
Oh, I'm gonna pass the microphone to some guy who you can talk to about that one. So how long have you guys been married, though? How long have you guys been married?
55 years.
Woo, 55 years. Give them, that's love. Woo. I always ask this question too. What's your key for somebody young like me looking to get married and have a successful 55-year marriage?
Put Jesus first.
Put Jesus first. Amen.
And communication.
And communication. All right. Tell her, stop hitting me.
Keep a sense of humor, too.
Huh?
Keep a sense of humor.
Keep it sensitive. Oh, I'm funny looking. I gotta have one too. All right.
Well, she is.
But you gonna get in trouble, man. Your outbursts
She
gonna get
is.
you
You
in trouble.
just don't know it.
You sitting next to the wrong group of ladies with them kind of comments. That lady kicks indoors.
Carol Jenkins, Warrior Street Block Club,
Yes,
between
ma'am.
Heaton and Shelton.
Don't look at me like that. Hey, mom. That's
Good
my adopted
morning.
mother.
My name is Yvonne Gibbs, Warriors Community Block Club Association, Inc.
Good morning. Good morning.
Well, we got a stand-up show.
My name is Clarence Pendleton, and I recently moved here in August from Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Oh,
where I work with Neighbor to Neighbor.
Okay.
What I did was I went to the high schools. The students were throwing away their lunches and saying they didn't like them. So I put up a sign, Smith Chapel Baptist Church, Feed the Hungry. And I got permission from the principal. I got the lunches, put in my refrigerator. And the next day I took them to Neighbor, and they fed the hungry people in around the city, Pine Bluff.
That's cool.
And that's about it. I'm with Clinton Chapel Baptist Church.
Well, it sounds like you like to be involved in the community. We're going to ask you to give your number to the young lady sitting in front of you, and you're going to get to work with us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to steal your idea, neighbor to neighbor. I'm like, guys, I got a great idea. Listen, the kids in the schools are throwing away. We'll talk. I got you, man.
Good morning. My name is John George. I'm with the Blightbusters Artist Village, Northwest Detroit CDC, and the Brightmore Alliance. Everybody, welcome to the Artist Village. You want to say something, Sophie?
Good morning, I'm Gladys Johnson from the Cadillac Area Community Council. That's Grand River, Greenfield, Jeffrey Freeway, and Artmore. And another Unity Baptist in the house. And
who's your pastor?
now we got interim pastors. You know, our pastor died, and we're in the process of getting another one and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you for joining us.
I'm happy to be here again.
Yes, ma'am.
Good blessing morning to everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Greg Cooksey. I am the president of the Terry Black Club. I've been in...
You said Terry?
Terry Street. Training school from Grand River.
Yeah, we need your information, man.
I've been there for 37 years and raised 2 children. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be there until God stretch me out. And
okay, well, we're so glad to have you. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hey.
My name is Jacqueline Clipper. I live in Brightmore. I guess you could say I'm the president of my neighborhood watch, because me and my one neighbor are the only ones on the block.
But you there?
We're there. We're holding it, but if we could use a little help over there too.
Understood.
You know. I'm generally known as a blues singer. I'm trying to get support from the community as well as work with the community. So anybody that needs somebody for your little events and stuff, call me up.
Listen, I got 10 seconds saying something real quick. Come on.
What do you want to hear?
Whatever you got, quick.
Okay.
The thrill is gone.
No. But I will do this one. I came on this morning and oh, what a shock. When I found out my key no longer fit my lock. Oh, baby, there I go.
Hey.
You can go back where you've been. See, you've been stepping out. Now someone else is stepping in.
Hold on.
Thank you very much.
Hold on now. Can we get her information? She needs to be at the potluck singing. That was amazing. Round of applause for her again, folks.
I would absolutely be at potluck singing on the 7th, but I have a gig on the 7th at 1 o'clock.
Oh.
So I have to be there.
We understand.
It's going to be at the Mile Road and 13, that gazebo, the gazebo.
I guess you go there, don't you? You like the gazebo?
Yes, that's where it is. So yeah,
Okay.
I'll be there, so I won't be able to.
We appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you all, and I also had another thing that once you open up the floor, maybe
Yes,
I
ma'am.
could speak about.
You can definitely speak towards, yeah. So we have a packed agenda. I know I'm taking too much time. Folks looking at me like, hurry up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about it.
Why do I have to follow her?
Right. You got to sing too now. A dance or something. Represent for grandma. Come on.
No, I wish I could, but no, I'm James Liddell. I'm the representing Grandma Patrol number 4.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Marie Neal from Patton, and the gentleman from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Welcome to Michigan, and I'm sorry about this weather. You don't deserve this.
You don't deserve this.
Paulette Watson. I'm with O'Hare Association.
Man, sit down. You blocking the camera. I know. We got a whole people watching the camera too, man.
My name is Annette Flowers, and I'm from Fenmore Summit Block Club. That's between Puritan and Florence.
Okay. Is that everybody? Did we miss anybody? Yes, we did. You can pass that microphone, Reginald, somebody? Someone, anybody? You raised your hand, you're like, I got it. I sing and I pass the mic. We got Vanna White.
My name is Valeria Berry, and I'm here from Development Centers.
Yes, ma'am.
We are in the community, and hello.
Gotcha. All right, well, folks, I will be brief. We have a action-packed agenda today. We have a special guest joining us, and we have tons of conversation that I know you guys want to indulge in. Please join me by giving a round of applause to our very own Councilman James Tate. Woo! He brought a folder today.
Drop my water. Can you grab me that water over there, please? Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing on a cold Friday? This is our final satellite hours for 2019 as we move into 2020. So I'm very glad and proud to be here and appreciate you all for being here as well. I see some new faces in the room. For our new faces in the room, what brought you here today? If I can ask, Aaron, microphone.
I was getting my tire fixed, and I saw you guys in here, and I wanted some coffee.
Okay. Come in and get coffee, end of a conversation. That works.
And I want to help people.
So, and you want to help people?
Yes, and I want to join your campaign. Can I work for your campaign?
Well, we'll talk about campaign and all that stuff later.
I won't charge you that much.
we got time to talk about that. Now we got a lot of work to do.
Yes, sir.
That's the main thing.
And I'm retired, so I got the time. I'm a retired school teacher.
Okay, well, maybe there's some things that we can do to assist you. That's what I'm here for. That's what we want to know about. So we just want to kind of find out from folks in the room, brand new, first time.
Yes, sir.
How did you find out about the meeting? So gave us that information. Aaron, we have another, the singer over here.
Sang, S-A-A-A-A-N-G, sang.
Thank you. What brought me here today was I am a user of the Brightmoor pantry on Losser and Finkel.
Yes.
And
Reverend Roz.
Reverend Rosalind. She brought it to our attention that she would be closing come the beginning of the year. But not only that she'll be closing, she's closing because they have a marijuana dispensary growing next to her. And they're not even supposed to be zoned in that area.
So we addressed that issue. We had BC go out.
I went and walked up in there. The place is.
So we got to know that.
That's why I came here.
If you're saying we're closing, we want to know before she closes.
Right. I told her, I said, I will be there to speak up. I will, and if anybody else from the area was to come to speak, because that's something that's vital to our community. She helps so many people in the Brightmoor community. Why would you let a dispensary knock her out the box? They're not doing anything for the community, and they're from Texas. So I think she deserves precedence. She needs to be there, and they don't.
So it's not even about allowing at this point. From the information that I have, is that it's illegally placed there. They didn't have a license.
Right.
So we, DeAndre, some of you have known DeAndre, we called, he's the one that deals with the marijuana-related issues.
Okay.
We called Building and Safety. Building and Safety said, no, they should not be there. We're going out. At that point, we wait until we receive any follow-up from the entity who reached out to us and said, there's a problem. We haven't heard anything. That's been months now. That's been months.
They're closing her down at the beginning of the year unless someone puts a stop to it.
All right, well, I would always say for folks in the room, please don't think, and folks who are watching on Facebook, don't think this is the only. We love for you to come here. We want you to come here, but call us up. Send us an email. Let us know in terms of follow-up. If you think we didn't do our job, if that means we get yelled at, we'll take the yelling, but that means that we can still at least be able to send somebody out and address the issue. So we're going to follow up on it again. Please. Aisha, if you can put that on our list, please, of items. I'm disheartened to hear that.
Thank y'all.
That shouldn't be the case. Got some other new new faces in the room. I think I kind of heard. Yep. We'll go this way.
Okay. My reason for coming today is because our block didn't get plowed. And I called all over and talked to DPW, and they said they would pass it to a supervisor. Nothing happened. I called back. I know the event is over, but in the event that it happens again. Also, I'm concerned about some blighted properties on my block, and what can I do about them? One of them was a crime scene. It's burned out, so you don't even know the address. The city boarded it up. Another one was burned out. It's been sitting that way for 10 years. And so I've been there 36 years. I have no intentions of moving, but I don't feel like I have to live like that.
I agree. What have you been told thus far about why the properties haven't been demolished or
We'll look into it.
That's been 30 years, you said?
No, I said I've lived there 36 years.
How long have the properties
One has been like that for 10 years, the other for about 3 years. Okay. And the 3-year property, I mean, it's just completely gone because it was firebombed to keep someone from testifying.
Okay. So I'm glad you're here. We're going to get that information from you as well. And we also have Carla Williamson who's here. I don't know if you met any of the district managers.
Only Stephanie and Rod.
Okay.
When they were doing it.
So they were the first ones, and we've had 2 since then. So we're going to introduce you to Carla Williamson. I know she's here. We're going to do that real quickly. Hey, Reg, is Carla? She's not here. She's outside. Okay, so she's on a phone call right now. But I want to introduce those of you who don't know her, who she is, because the mayor created the district managers to first deal with blight. Now they've since did mission creep and they're doing all this other stuff, but blight is the reason why they were created, to deal with those particular issues that you have and many other residents have within the city and the district. So we want to introduce you to her and get her on that, because I, as a legislator, I don't have by charter the ability to tell a department do this or do that. That's why even with that situation, we make the phone call, but we can't demand them to do it. But it takes you all letting us know this so that we can use any kind of influence that we have to make it happen. So we're going to get your information as well. We will, because we're going to go around the room. We're going to go around the room. I'm just right now just trying to find out how people find out about the meeting, because we're trying to figure out how to get more people involved, engaged, because a lot of times people say, I don't know about it, haven't heard about it, and we're trying in so many different ways to get the word out. So whenever we get a new person, it's always important to know, hey, what did we put out there that worked? So for you gentlemen, how did you guys find out about it?
Well, my name is Kevin. I'm here from Grandmont Rosedale Development Corporation. I've been working with them since August through AmeriCorps Vista, and I'm working as a volunteer coordinator. So I just wanted to learn more about issues in District 1 and just kind of get more familiar with the representatives. So.
Got it. Well, we appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, also from GRDC. The camera couldn't catch me when I gave my first intro. Like I like to think about like what's something I could do wrong in my job as I'm here, and not being able to hear from the community is definitely a way I could do my job wrong. So I really want to be able to come here, listen to what people's stories, and just get a better sense. I'm not from this community, and so a lot of these things is just like brand new to me. So just trying to be a little bit of a fly in the wall and just hear from what people have to say. So thanks for inviting me.
Appreciate you being here. And anybody else? I know we got one. Been here before anybody else? I think everybody else has been here. All right. So when Carla gets in, if we can have her come on in. We do want. Is that her? Nope, that wasn't her. Today we actually have a conversation. Many of you have heard about this blight bond proposal that's coming before council. We've talked about it a couple of times here. We had Arthur Jemison here about a few weeks ago, but he wasn't able to really give a full-blown conversation. We weren't able to have a full-blown conversation about it because he had other obligations that he had to go to, and he came here on a quick phone call. But today he's here, and we're going to have as much conversation, discussion about this thing as possible because City Council is being asked to vote. And I always let folks know that the way that I vote really is, to me, how do you all feel is how I base my vote. And there's some things that we're not going to agree on, and we are not going to agree every person in the room, because we can probably poll the room and some people are for it right now and some people are against it. Then you got some folk who don't even know really what it is. It's kind of heard. and hearing news stories, and all that stuff clouds some of the conversation as well. Some of you may have had situations like you where you say, look, I've been calling this city all these years and they ain't done nothing. So why should I trust them now? Right? But then you have some people who have had situations where they made the phone call and a week later the house was down. So what we want to do is clear up any confusion. If you don't mind, if we can start the conversation first with that instead of going around the room, because we still have an opportunity to go around the room. But I think this is a big one, $250 million in a bond proposal. Now, it comes before council to get it the way it wants to look. And then what council is being asked to do is put it before the voters. But the question is, should it even come before the voters at this point for many folks? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we can bring forward Arthur Jemison. Y'all give him a clap. You had like a Death Star music when you came in. Dun, 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 dun. He's good. This is a good guy. We don't always agree, but what we do is we have a lot of respect for each other and how we approach the issue. So what I want to make sure we do is go through the actual. Oh, you got it. That's exactly what I wanted us to do.
So hey, good afternoon, or you just.
Yep, you got it. Here's your mic.
Great. Good morning, everyone.
I have somebody hand these out.
Good morning. So I've
Anything
got
else you
copies. Yes. If I could ask you to save a few copies for me, but you can give out all the rest of them that you'd like. Yes.
If you have a couple, if you can kind of share, because we are running a little low, it looks like.
Yeah, I want to make sure I've got enough for I've got one other meeting today. Great. Thanks so much. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I understand. It appears to me that Member Tate's got the best real estate in town to have this meeting, but it also seems like you guys have really robust conversations. So I'm hoping to have one with you guys tonight. So here's what's going on. We've had significant success in removing vacant and abandoned houses from neighborhoods with the help of the Treasury Department. Gave the city, through its land bank, $265 million over the last 5 years to remove vacant and abandoned houses. So today, 19,000 are down. To be honest, many of them are in this district, and one of the reasons for that is that this is one of the districts that people stayed, had one of the highest occupancy levels in the city, with a few exceptions, and it's made it possible for this neighborhood to be one of the priority neighborhoods for hardest hit funds.
Hold it up just a little bit more for they can't hear back.
Sorry. So that's great. But what it did mean also was, because hardest hit funds had rules that said you can't spend those dollars in areas of lower occupancy, houses that might still be up in lower occupancy parts of the district are still up. And what that means is there's a lot of folks out there saying, the house over there on the other side of this street got taken down, and the minute another one got vacated, that one came down. But on my side of the street, nothing's coming down. Why is that? It's because hardest hit funds meant that we had to use certain boundaries to make a decision. So, what the request of the council is today is that an item be put on the ballot. Voters would be asked whether they would like the city to have the right to issue up to $250 million worth of bonds to pay for the removal of the rest of the vacant and abandoned houses in the city. So today, we think there's about 27,000 vacant and abandoned houses in the city. Here's the good news. We think that we can sell for rehabilitation about 9,000 of those houses. But we think about 19,000 of them are going to have to be demolished. So if the land bank continues to sell houses to folks at the rate that it's been doing, and we're able to get the others down, we think we can get to a functional zero level of blight. Or let's say a level of blight where maybe there's 150 houses a year that have to be taken down, primarily because of fires. That's what we think we can get in 5 years if we sell those first 8,000 or 9,000 houses and we knock down the other 19. So the proposal is, can we allow Detroit voters in the March primary, the presidential primary, to vote whether they want to have those houses taken down in the manner that's been proposed, or if they don't. Without that, unfortunately, our last houses that are going to be funded with hardest hit funds will be knocked down in March, and they'll be, and all that money will have been spent by next summer.
That's the federal money.
That's the federal money. So if we want to continue at the pace that we've been going, we need additional capital, and this bond request is the way that we do it.
Let me ask this, because I hope you don't mind just again, I just want to make sure we level set. But there's still dollars that are available for demolition. So we're not just, if the federal money dries up, that doesn't mean that we're completely out of demolition dollars, correct? It just doesn't mean that we're at the same level that we currently are or have been with the hardest hit funds.
That's exactly right. So the plan of adjustment has in it approximately $50 million a year for the next 5 years for blight elimination. So $10 million of that goes to do non-structural blight. So when there's a car that needs to be taken away, that's behind an alley, when there's a tree that needs to be limbed up, these trees are a major issue that Member Tate's been asking me a lot about. When there's a corridor cleanup that needs to take place, that's funded with that first $10 million. Then the second $10 million that goes to commercial demolition. We spend that on taking down a vacant or abandoned retail, a store that's been vacant and abandoned for a long time. That leaves $30 million a year that we can still spend on residential demolition for the next 5 years. And what that would allow is for the city to do, instead of doing about 3,500 to 4,000 demolitions a year, which is what we're doing today, we would do closer to 1,000. And so instead of doing 100 demos a week, which is where we get to in the summer, we would be doing about 25 a week. And so, because that's what the budget would allow.
But we're gonna allow for questions. I just wanted to. I have executive privilege, so I get a chance to ask a question. But we're definitely going to make sure that everyone. It is. That's why you're here. So we're going to make sure everyone has an opportunity to ask every question possible. But again, I want to make sure that we are.
I'll be quick.
No, I mean you're doing a great job. So the other piece. So when we demo private properties, right? Because that happens. Some of these dollars are going for private properties, commercial. What's our return on that? So are we just demoing the property and then just giving them, basically utilizing city funds and not getting any return as a result of that, which then further depletes that demolition fund that we have for demos? Or are we actually getting some funds back from the property owners after we demo the property?
So it depends on the case. So most of the demolitions we've been doing, not all of them, but most of them are on land owned by the Detroit Land Bank Authority. There are some that are ordered demolished that are privately owned, and in those cases, it's been the history, and those demos are less frequent. But for us to put a lien on those properties, so in case that owner ever tries to come back and get their land back, we got it. We also have the ability to take it through NAP and a few other ways that we're able to do it. But our return directly on investment comes from hopefully the ability to reuse that land later and have it be part of a new housing development and the money that would come from it to the land bank in the city.
So I do want you at some point to talk about actual numbers, how that has actually occurred. Because a lot of what we are talking about is possibly, could be, maybe based upon us clearing things out. But I would like for us to really talk about things that we've actually done and how we've gotten that return. So we've done a lot of, how many demos in the last 5 years?
19,000.
And as a result of those 19,000, what has been put in place to get that return on that investment? We're talking $200 and something million from the Fed. So I want us to have that kind of a conversation as well, because otherwise, and I know that's what I've heard from a lot of people saying, okay, well, wait a minute. We're doing a lot of demos, which we love and we need, but what's coming as a result of those demos?
So I've got a great answer for that. I want to do two things though, because I think they're really important to do early on. So the council has, the same way that the city has, asked a series of very good questions. Listen, those 19,000 houses are gone, but in the process of doing that, a lot of good stuff happened, but there were also some mistakes that you guys made in organizing and implementing this program. Mayors apologize for that, but it's important to say that there were a number of issues that came out. If you're doing 100 of anything a week for 4 years, there's going to be mistakes made. The question is, how do you handle them and how do you resolve them? So I want to be clear about two things that the council's done with the administration. One is it has developed a resolution, a copy of which has been handed out today, which identifies a series of reforms to processes that the city and the administration and the council are agreeing to do together. They include everything from taking away demolition from the department that had been doing it before, or the separate affiliate authority, the Detroit Building Authority, everything from doing that to changing the way the land bank distributes land, to changing the way the planning department does its planning work. So we've made commitments at the request of council to do all those things. There's another document that you guys have, which is a list of decisions that the city has to ask the council to make in order for any money to be spent. And it is an example of us having to change the way our departments are organized, so that, and the council has to approve that. There's a request the city has to make for any contracting of any demolition contractor has got to go before the council. So these are changes that we've made and safeguards that have been built into the process to make sure that some of the mistakes that were made before, when they get made again, because mistakes are always going to get made, that there's a process for being transparent about them and for us changing the practices that led to them. And that's frankly been led by your council members. So I want to answer your question very directly. What's the return on investment? So I'll try to do funny and not funny first. The first return on investment is Halloween, okay? So for years we've been doing Angels Night. And 3 years ago when we said, can we not do Angels Night, can we actually do Halloween this year? We were able to do that. We were able to do it 2 years in a row. Why is that? Because the fear of fires that are the direct result of vacant and abandoned houses has been drastically reduced. So that's a fun answer, but the real answer is that the number of fires is down by more than 50%. Part of that is because there's fewer vacant and abandoned houses to be burned. And that allows our fire department to be even more responsive in the ways that it has become more responsive over the last 5 years. So that's one return on investment. And that's cash that we can spend on fighting fires where they are, as opposed to fighting fires that didn't need to get started in the first place. The second thing that's happened is Detroit property values have gone up almost 90% over the last 5 years. So the return in some regards is that when a vacant house is removed from your street, if it's next door to you, not only is that risk of fire gone or reduced significantly, you're also probably able to get insurance for your house that you may not have been able to get because no one's going to write you an insurance policy for your house if it's next to a vacant abandoned house. And even more important than that, most Detroiters' house values have gone up. So there's been a lot of discussion, as there should be, about how do people get their homes repaired. But there's also a lot of discussion about if your house is worth more, you get more access to capital because of your house being worth more. This is another part of the return on investment that's happened. And the final piece to mention is we got 3 studies, one from Michigan, one from Harvard, and one from Wayne State, all of which say that the more demolitions that take place, in the places that they take place, the lower the crime goes down. So again, I'm sharing with you what a study says. I think that's also been the experience that people, remember, Cal also talks to me about the work we've been doing in the State Fair area where there's been a very serious crime problem. He says it's not just a bunch of data, it's been the lived experience of people in that neighborhood. So your return on investment is a cash side too, which means that when the land bank sells houses, they are able to use that money to operate, which reduces the amount of money that the city has to subsidize them to operate. There's the more that their land that they get, it becomes valuable, it becomes critical to doing things like the FCA plant or Ford or other major investments that are being made. There's land bank land involved in many economic development transactions that bring jobs. So the return on investment is at a budget level with fire, it's at a budget level with with increases in the value of everyone's house. It's at a budget level with the way that it impacts crime. But it also, again, has these other secondary impacts that are hard to value, like having Angels Night End and other things like that take place. So that's an answer to your question. I want to make sure I've got plenty of time to answer your question.
we're here.
So,
hopefully
you've got a copy of the checks and balances slide. You've got a copy of the reform commitments that the council has required, and you've got a copy of the basic proposal. I think our desire is, and I'll be really honest with you guys, if this goes on the ballot, I think you guys are, I mean, if your council, who I think is representing you well on this issue, decides that enough work's been done that a real legitimate analysis can be done by the voters that said, I want to continue this program the way it's been proposed, or I don't. We want you guys to make the decision. I mean, we're very happy with council's oversight and review, and we know that if it goes on the ballot, it's because a real option has been proposed. But we think in the end, this has got to be a question of Detroiters deciding if they think the demo program should continue the way that it's been going with reforms, or not. And we are obviously your humble servants and respect your decision. So I think that's the gist of it. Should this go on the ballot or not? We think that it should.
So now and again, this is not necessarily point counterpoint, but just also want to make sure we completely level set. There's no opposition campaign that's out there.
That's right.
There's going to be a whole lot of money that's going to be pumped into a campaign to convince people to vote for this. So how is it just, I mean, there's no campaign to push, then I can say, then it's easy to say, yeah, well, you know what, let the voters decide. There's a conversation out there saying, well, where is the money for those who actually want to have a counterpoint? Is it a fair conversation? Is that a fair assessment?
I feel, to your question, I feel like there's many people out there who, and you and I both talked about this just a few minutes ago, we are hearing from people who like the program. We're also hearing people who don't like the program and don't think that it should continue, or don't think it should continue exactly the way it was going before. There's going to be money invested in having a campaign to educate voters about it. I'm also certain that there's going to be a campaign out there that says, you know, we shouldn't continue to do it. I mean, I have not seen any difficulty in the people with good and legitimate questions and the people who were against it getting their voice out. I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
Well, no, I mean, and you did, but I mean, again, let's be real, there's a lot of money that's going to be utilized to push this proposal.
Absolutely.
And we cannot deny it. And that's not to say that if I was in a position to try to push a proposal, I would do the same thing. Let's be real. But I've seen pictures and where you'll say before and after. Which one do you want? Well, everybody's going to say after. You know, after pictures going to look beautiful. That is easy. That's a real, and you do something that basic, someone will say, I'm going that way. But without the details, and that's why it's important for us to have the conversation today and continue to have that conversation about the details, not just the simple picture, because a lot of folks won't read this. I'm going to be honest. They're not going to read it. But I want to make sure that we have a chance to go through each one of these items so that the folks who are here and the folks who are watching on live and on our streaming will have an opportunity to know what each one of these whereases and resolves means. So,
sure. I'd love to start that, actually, just the two biggest things.
Well, let's read them. Let's actually go through. Sure. I mean, I really want us to go through.
Sure. So, if my memory serves, the first one is my memory serves. The first one is new, but it's really good. The Detroit Building Authority is an independent authority of the city, has a board, does its own work, but sort of all the board appointments belong to the city, and I think through the mayor's office, and I think there's one for council members. They have had a really mixed record. I mean, this is to your point. People want the after, but they want to know, what did it take to get there, and can you do a better job of getting it there the right way? And that's really where council's required changes here that we're looking at came from. So we're going to have a new demolition department. We're going to take this away from the Detroit Building Authority and have a demo department where people actually go to the microphone and have to be accountable to the council in a way that the Detroit Building Authority is not. Second piece is there's a there's a board that the council and the administration will appoint. Who will review.
If we can go through, because I don't want to.
I'm on 1B. I'm on 1B now with the demolition review
Let's start
board.
at the top. Let's start at the top. So, because first, what folks need to know, how many of you know what general, let's make sure we say it, unlimited tax general obligation bonds are? Okay, so this is where I say we got to start. This is the education. All right? There's a difference between a resolution. A resolution is something that council desires. An ordinance is the law. So that's the difference between an ordinance and a resolution. But I want you to talk about
Sure.
Talk about the bond
So,
and how they're paid back.
Absolutely. So in your current taxes, there is a debt amount. Okay. So this is going to get complicated. I'll try to make it as simple as I can. But basically, in the taxes you currently pay, there's an amount that's for schools, there's an amount that's for the city's general operating fund, there's an amount that's for the city's debt. So, because of the resolution of the bankruptcy and the rapid repayment of debt, we have the ability to borrow enough to do this inside the current and existing debt millage that we have. That's the simplest answer. So without raising any taxes or adding any mills or do anything of that nature, we have the resources to do this. Now, the next thing you say is, well, can we do that, but then not do anything else ever? And the answer is no. We can do this and still have plenty of room to do park rehabilitations, road rehabilitations, other things that we need to do in the coming years. So that unlimited tax general obligation bonds means that the person who owns that note has the right to receive that money. And it's not mitigated by anything that's been voted on by the council, assuming that that's what is approved by voters and the council.
So I can hear you back there.
Assuming that that's approved by the council and the voters.
And how many of those general obligation bonds do we have out there?
I think the city's got something like, post-bankruptcy, I think you have something like $500 million worth of bonds out there.
Like the 255 that we did, not terribly long ago, right?
That's right. So I think the total amount, and again, if we needed to go out later after these bonds were approved and funded and do another $200 to $300 million worth of bonds for other things that we needed, we could do that later. So this is not eating up all of our remaining bonding authority.
And I know it's not on the list here, but I know before we continue to go on the list, the administration is asking for this to be on the March.
That's correct.
Ballot.
The presidential primary ballot. So if you're going out to vote for Deval Patrick or Bernie Sanders or Warren or Biden
or anybody on the Democratic
table, it could be the same ballot as that ballot.
All right. So why that ballot? Why that election as opposed to the one in November? We know now. Well, honestly, it's a lot easier for those of you who don't know. It's a lot easier to vote now than it has been in the past because you can absentee with no excuse at all. And you can register the day before, I think up to the day before or even day of registration. So it's a lot easier. So some of those impediments in the past are not there, but still, when you just look at the data, the primaries don't draw the same amount of participation as general elections, which will be in November of next year. So talk a little bit about why March as opposed to waiting until November when we traditionally have more people come out.
Sure. So there's two answers. The first one is there will be no more money to maintain the current level of demos after the spring, summer of next year. So when the land bank demolitions are over, we will only have, if you guys have been tracking this conversation, only have the amount that's in the plan of adjustment for demos, which will reduce the number of demolitions by about 70% or so until we get new money. So what we want to do is,
when the new budget comes in.
When the new budget comes in.
The new budget is?
July.
All right.
But we would still be using those $30 million. So without the bond passage, we don't have the ability to maintain today's level. We have the ability to maintain a slightly lower level of demolition. So, but your question was, that's the first reason why we want to do it in March is because it means we don't have to reduce the number of demolitions for any period. The second reason is And again, this is something that I want to just give you as information. You can decide if you agree with it or not. You know, ballots, putting this on a ballot for the presidential, there's going to be a lot of stuff on the ballot for presidential. Many, many initiatives are going to be on there. You know, having a long period of time to sit at the ballot and decide what you want, you know, is an issue. It may not be the biggest issue to everybody, but it is an issue, relatively speaking. So anyway.
So, just wanted to make sure.
No, sure.
That's the
right
question. I know some people didn't even know we're having an election in March from the conversations we've had in the past. So, okay, we can go through it.
Oh, so let's keep going.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a demolition department instead of having the DBA do demolition. We're going to have a demolition review board where the council and the administration review everything that's in this resolution, which again, as the councilmember said, is not a law, but it is expression of the desires of council and what the council wants to have happen. There's going to be a board of 7 people, however.
So let's do the 1A.
Sure.
So they can follow along with
you. So I did 1A. So 1A was the demo department. 1B was the demolition review board, where those people will hold the administration responsible for doing or not doing the things that this resolution says.
And the demolition board will be comprised of 3 members from council, appointees from council, 3 from the mayor, and 1 joint. Again, we got folks who are watching. That's why I'm actually asking you to go through this.
Not a problem.
All right.
So the next item has to do with who's going to do the demolitions, making sure that the people who do the demolitions are representative of our community. We're going to submit a very large package of demolitions. One of the reasons to do that is so that when the council is reviewing whether or not we're meeting our goals of creating opportunities for Detroit-based businesses, they can see, did you pick 50%? These are half the demos of the year. Did you pick Detroit-based companies to do half of them or not? It won't be a question. It'll be visible. And so that's why in number 2, there's a description of how we're going to do it. There's a focus on the fact that over 50% of the contracts will be awarded to people meeting a set of descriptions: Detroit-based businesses, Detroit headquartered businesses, Detroit small businesses. And then there's also a component where there's going to be CREO, or the Civil Rights and Inclusion Office is going to be monitoring this work and taking the extra steps to make sure we attract people to do this work. Number 3.
If we're not able to reach.
If we're not able to reach.
If we're not able to reach, what happens?
If we're not able to reach, we're going to be in breach of this. That group of people who meet are going to, I mean, as the kids say, put us on blast at council and say, you guys aren't even doing the stuff this resolution says. Council, don't approve the contract. I mean, that's what's going to happen if we don't meet these goals. I mean, just being very practical. That's certainly what I would do. The next one is 3. Within that large set of demolitions, there's going to be a series of set-aside contracts for certain categories of businesses, such as Detroit small businesses and Detroit-based micro businesses. And it goes through here that there'll be a report showing each quarter the progress we've made with this work. And insufficient capacity to do that, CREO is going to take actions to get, attract and certify more businesses.
So 30%. So talk a little bit about that. Why 30%? How did we land on that number?
How did we land on this number? Because we figured that between the requirement that we get 50% and then the set aside of 30, that there's no way that we can do worse than having a net, north of 50% of these businesses doing these demos being Detroit-based businesses. I mean, it's ways of getting at a problem. One way is to have a set aside, and another way is to have a requirement. And so we're doing both in this case. That's the way I read this.
Okay, and this is mainly for demolition companies, correct?
That's
not for, let's say, a business along Grand River or anywhere else. This is strictly demolition-related companies, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
So then number 4 is prior to submission of a demolition bid contract, we have to submit our employment report. So again, what will happen is the commission, citizens, people will be able to see, are we doing the things we're supposed to do? And if we're not, there's going to be a group of people who are going to say, you're not, and it's going to be embarrassing for us, but that embarrassment isn't just embarrassment. You can go to the council and say, look at this list of checks and balances. Don't approve another set of contracts for demolitions until this is done properly. So then, by May 31st, this is number 5, representatives of OCFO and CREO will work with BFA, which is the Budget Finance and Audit Standing Committee, to review the ordinance, outcome metrics, and make sure that we're meeting our goals. Then I'm going to move on to number 6. Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation agrees to schedule a meeting with demolition contractors who are pre-qualified and make sure that what they're going to do here is make sure there's a gap analysis for implementation of the blight elimination strategy. So that means is somebody comes forward and says, hey, I'm a demo contractor, I'm gonna do the stuff you said. There's gonna be an analysis that says, okay, what do you need to do that you're not doing today in order to meet the goal, right? So people, I see this all the time in construction, I'm gonna have 50% African Americans working on my job, and even though I'm halfway done, I'm still gonna make it. Well, if you're halfway done and half of it works, how do I know that everything else you do is going to involve African? So the gap analysis is going to make sure that we know, you don't even have enough people in your company today. So how are you actually going to make it to the goal that we've identified? So that gap analysis is going to protect that component. Then in 7A, the DESC, which is our sort of employment nonprofit, is going to implement a blight elimination employment outreach program where they're going to market to all the different channels that the city has to make sure we get partners in here to execute this work, including, as you see at the end, ethnic media, making sure there's translation into the languages of Bengali and Yemeni and Spanish and other critical languages.
So talk to us a little bit about how that looks right now. What does this industry look like today? How large of a lift is this going to be?
So it's going to be a medium lift. There are 4 or 5. I think the trick here is going to be there's 4 or 5 solid African American Detroit-based headquartered businesses, and the question is this going to help them grow to get bigger and allow new ones to come in? The Gayangas of the world, the Brickmans, these folks have been doing this for a long time. Because we don't have to deal with the federal rules anymore, we can do local set-asides and other things. Those companies are bound to have opportunity to grow significantly. Can they grow, and then can new ones come in behind them? The key is going to be having them grow. Because today, there are some very big businesses like Adamo and Homrich who do a lot of demolition. They're national companies and they can do national work. This is going to be hopefully like Hartsfield Airport, where you have people who, got their first major contract and are now the major construction interest in Atlanta because they worked on Hartsfield Airport. We're hoping that these demolitions become people's gateway to having those kinds of businesses and smaller new ones that come up behind them.
He says he has to leave. You gonna leave after this? You gonna leave us all this good conversation? You said maybe not, but this is why we're doing this. So wait, this is what I'm saying. So we want to make sure this is fair. So I know you're new, and I appreciate you coming for the first time. All right, so we'll give you your one question.
1,900 demolitions so far. What do we have left? Vacant lots. Who's going to take care of these vacant lots? Who's going to cut the grass? Who's going to keep it down, keep it from being blight again?
Sure. So I have an answer for you.
Is the person next door going to mow the lawn or mow the grass or cut the, what's going to be done with those vacant lots?
So we got 19,000 today. So today, Brad Dick and GSD does 4 cuts of every lot in the city. 4 cuts a year. So we're trying to get that to go to a fifth cut a year.
4, that's not enough.
No,
So that was a question. I got you. So we want to go through it because I don't disagree, but I don't disagree. But the man has come here to give an education about what we have here. Let's let him finish, and then we'll open up for questions.
So I'm going to go on to 7B, where we have the Office of Contracting and Procurement Demolition Department and CREO hosting a series of employment fairs for contractors that didn't qualify for resident business certification. That's to get more people qualified as resident businesses. Then you got number 8, which is the submission of quarterly reports showing the numbers of homes demolished, proof of the field liaison visits to each property, and proof that all demolitions were monitored, including the backfill, any ongoing investigations or violations. So this is important because what happens is people, well, in the interest of time, I won't give you I won't editorialize on each of those. I hope it's clear how important that is. The monitoring of demolitions to make sure that people are leaving the holes the way they're supposed to and filling them with the proper soil is absolutely essential.
And it has not happened in all situations.
It has not happened in all situations, and where it hasn't, we've had to go back and fire contractors and force them to remediate and a range of things. So it's a big deal. All right, so now I think we're on number 9. Number 9. So I'm not sure how many of you heard about the Auditor General's report that came out about a week ago. The whole series of findings in there. And what this commits us to is to work with the Auditor General to implement their findings. So I want to highlight something. The Auditor General's #1 recommendation based on their findings was that there be a demolition department that reports to council in the way that it's been proposed here. So that's one of the things. It's the #1 thing that they recommended, and it's the #1 thing in this set of resolutions. So this section compels us to continue to work with them in every event. It also says that there are paperwork burdens that make small businesses work harder. So we need to be thinking about that as we implement their requirements. Then number 10. There's going to be a deconstruction pilot. I'm not sure how many of you know, but there are ways of taking apart a house that don't involve demolition, where you can reuse components of the house, and they want us to do a pilot on that. Then the Planning and Development Department. So as you guys know, we've done neighborhood plans in many parts of the city, but this requires us to complete neighborhood plans in every part of the city. So there will be a neighborhood plan that includes Brightmoor. There'll be a neighborhood plan that includes places in between the places that are strong, because we believe that's important, and it's a requirement that the council made as part of this discussion. It wasn't hard to convince us to do that, but it was good that it was included. Importantly, places where there's going to be there's a lot of standing blight. There aren't that many of them in District 1, but places that there's a lot of standing blight, we want those places to make sure that they're included in plans. We also talk about what the priorities of the plans will be, that there'll be a focus on historic preservation, there'll be a focus on how to manage open space, just like the gentleman asked about. There's going to be a focus on getting vacant land in the hands of people who've been taking care of it for years through special events, not unlike sidewalk fairs. But it identifies the way we're going to do planning. Then it talks about sidewalk strategy, and I'm down on number 13 now. We're going to do sidewalk strategies and landscape interim use strategies, like the gentleman said, they're going to prevent illegal dumping. Then we have on number 14A, where we're going to, so many people, this touches on many of the rest of the findings, so I'll be brief about it. There's definitely 9 votes to change the land bank. Right now, everybody believes, as we do, that there's reforms needed the way the land bank does work. And I want to say thank you to Saskia for helping doing what she's doing now, but we're going to put our backs into it with her and continue the reform process of the land bank. It's going to be in a new contract between the city and the land bank, the changes that people want, and we commit to submitting them by the first day of 2020.
And then we'll come through the committee that I chair as well. So again, your input is needed. We're going to put the information out to the community.
Absolutely. So number 14B talks about new discount programs for Detroiters. A major concern is getting the land in the hands of Detroiters and making sure that we, instead of losing the 60%, because today 60% of the houses that are and land that's bought by bought from the land bank is bought and sold to Detroiters. We want to build on that, not let it go down. So we're going to recommend new discount programs in 14B. In 14C, we're going to recommend new ways to get land that isn't a side lot or isn't a house next door to you to be sold to you. You've got this program called Building Blocks. This has been very successful, where you have what's effectively a side lot fair. You warn about when houses in your neighborhood are going up for auction and when vacant land in your neighborhood is going up for auction, so you can be ready for it and use your discount to buy it. 14B is also about building blocks, which I just described. 16A, we're missing a 15 here, it seems, is about focusing at least $10% of this money, which would be about $25 million, on vacant house rehab incentives. So I'm not sure, I think there's a Rehab and Ready program operating in D1, but I certainly know the place that we started that in the University District, where the land bank renovated a house, got a buyer, and because it got a little bit of subsidy from Quicken Loans, was able to rehab it, sell it to someone at a discount, but get the house rehabilitated. They've done that almost 80 times now. That's one end. On the other end, we might be able to do light improvements of land bank houses, just the foundation, just the roof, that would make it easier to sell. We're going to spend those $25 million on getting houses rehabilitated and into the hands of new occupants. Yes.
No. No.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Just for
So we're gonna get to that too.
It's not.
That's gonna be the question I was gonna ask.
Just to be clear, it's not home repair grants. So then on number 16B, that we're going to try to do that rehabilitation in the most sustainable way we can. And there's a few items highlighted about how we're going to do it: high efficiency systems and updated windows. Then there's a requirement that to make sure that we're rehabilitating as many good properties as we can, keeping good properties that we can, we are making a commitment to do an evaluation about what should be boarded, and to make sure that we are able to preserve as many houses for rehabilitation as possible. There's only 23 of these, so we're getting close now. So 17A, that there's going to be rehab strategies that will range from Rehab and Ready to more modest improvements, as I just explained. 17B, we're going to be working with community development organizations to do this work, not only in the planning and the plans that we talked about completing, but also in the rehabilitation. So the nonprofit group that works in your area is going to be a part of rehabilitating and selling these houses, as well as the planning work that goes on. We're going to have programs for rehabilitated houses that focus on people who are at 60% or below of area median income. That means one of the concerns that people have had is, oh, you have this idea of what affordability is. Is that affordable to Detroiters? Is that affordable to Wayne County people? And the point here is this is designed 60% or below. In particular, the group between 60 and 50% are really where Detroiters' incomes are today. And so that's the group that we're going to be targeting for these affordable rehabilitations.
So as a point of clarification, so just so you know, 80% of the AMI in this area is $45,440 or less. That's considered low income. For very low income household, 50% of the AMI, I mean, we said 60 in here, but I'm just giving you some other breakdowns. 50% of AMI is $28,400. An extremely low income household is one with 30% of the AMI, which is $17,040. Now, it all depends on how many people live in the home as well, but overall, that's what the AMI looks like. And the AMI is something that we're going to have to figure out how to adjust as well, because it includes not just Detroit's income, but the area. So it includes Livonia, Warren, and Detroit, which is, you know, we have different financial, economic situations. But so our numbers look better than they really do, and theirs numbers look in some situations a little worse than they really do. But it's not always, it's not truly reflective of the city of Detroit. So, but that's a federal fix, not anything that we can do here on a local level. Again, just want to give you some understanding of what that means.
Absolutely. So I think we're now on 19A. We're going to propose a new grass cutting strategy to address spring growth and improve maintenance of lots. So the next items are all about the thing the gentleman was asking about. So 19B, we're going to develop a pilot where the city can help property owners address dangerous trees, so that we use surplus funds to place a lien on a house, surplus funds is later, where we place a lien on houses to recover the funds when a property is sold. So we got a lot of dangerous trees out there. I know back in San surplus funds to get rid of some of these trees as part of this work. So number 20, we're going to expand our legal dumping campaign. So as you may know, we've been doing those cameras and tracking people down when they do illegal dumping and putting them in jail in some cases. That we're going to expand that program because many of the places we'll be doing demolitions are going to be, once they're first demolished, if we don't act quickly, they could be targets of the illegal dumping. Planning, what we're going to do with you on landscaping and boulders and other things, hopefully going to prevent that. But this is the start of it, has to be catching people in the act and getting them tickets and putting them in jail. So 21 is just as important as number 1, in my opinion. We've introduced into the legislature, and it's been reported out of committee, and we think going to hopefully get approved by the end of the year, a plan that will allow people with high arrearages in their property taxes to have those arrearages reduced significantly, and to get them on payment plans that instead of paying $200, you're paying $20. That's what the median beneficiary of this program would get. So if you are PTE eligible and you have a high arrearage, this is going to allow you to reduce your arrearage very significantly. I think that last time I had handouts about that. I'll make sure
So
I send them.
this is something that we can't do from the city level by ourselves. What's the tone and tenor of the state legislators?
It's been really
as it
good.
relates to this?
It's been really good. We had to do some talking to some of the other treasurers who were kind of nervous about the ability for their treasury, their treasuries to do this. But I think based on Dave, who's been doing the lobbying on this, that it's been really responded to favorably at the State House. And of course, you're elected. You should talk to your electeds about getting your state electeds about getting it approved. This is going to be huge. People who are paying $200 a day, $200 a month to pay off their old property taxes in the old deals are going to be able to pay $20, and that's a lot of money.
For the entire state legislature, not just Wayne County legislatures, state legislature members will be able to vote on this particular item. So that's why I asked the question, statewide, how does this look? Not just within our area, because it's always a heavy lift when we start talking about statewide, because they don't always look towards our items very favorably. What's that conversation looks like, and about what time do we think this item may potentially pass?
We think this is going to pass by the end of the year. Dave's got I'm in charge of the council count, and he's in charge of the state count. He says that he feels good about it being voted this year. So,
and they go on recess when? When does the state go on recess?
I think they go on recess in mid-December, late December.
Okay. TikTok.
Yes, definitely. So that's number 21. Number 22. We're going to partner with nonprofits and philanthropies to provide information about ways to prevent foreclosure through the Make It Home program and homeowner property tax exemption. Some of you may have been participants in or seen these folks go on the doorsteps talking to people about their foreclosure options. So 22B, we're going to continue to use the right of first refusal. Some of you may know that we have been, for the last 2 years, buying houses out of foreclosure that were occupied and then offering the people who were renting houses from bad landlords who then didn't pay their taxes and lost the property in foreclosure. We've been buying them out of using our right of first refusal and then selling them the houses. So we've had over 1,000 people who participated in that program in the last 3 years. And so finally, the land bank, we're going to create land use policies that protect open space and explore land ownership models such as land trust. So those are the agreements we've made so far. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few more things that are added between now and Tuesday.
So now I wanted to make sure, because we're a boring group, we don't get all excited about stuff. We actually like to go through the details, and I think this is very important for us to have that kind of a conversation that's not based on simply emotion, but it's based on the data and the information and the conversation. Now, Arthur, we got to ask, there's a lot of we will in here. The question is, why haven't we already? Why? Because there's some items that we could have done already. And I know that many of the items in red are items that council presented to the administration to address some of the concerns that we have. Why is it now these items coming before us as opposed to, I mean, some of this is just good policy, good public policy. You know, when you say land bank, city and DLBA will create, this is number 23, land use policies that promote and protect public space and explore shared land ownership models such as land trust. Good public policy. Why does this even have to be in this document?
Well, because you guys wouldn't let anything happen any different, number one. And the things that we have been doing on this haven't been moving fast enough. And this is going to basically create a lot of accountability for us. So I'll give an example. So the building blocks program, which I mentioned, where we did our pilot out in Campo Bangletown the other day. Those folks had wanted to buy a house on their block but hadn't been able to. And the land bank was, well, how do we solve this problem because we don't have the ability to do direct sales that way. So they came up with a plan and it began to work. So saying, when I talked to Member Tate, Member Alexander Lopez, and they say, that's working, why aren't you doing it more? You need to commit to doing it more. So you need to commit to doing it more. You need to do more of that, and you need to do it faster. I think when you take a little thing and you turn it into a bigger thing, that's what moments and initiatives like this are for. So I think what you'll see in all this is a kernel of stuff with a couple exceptions. A kernel of things that we were already talking about doing that now this process has accelerated. I don't want to take, what I do want to do is I don't want to give you, I want to give you the facts. I think this conversation has been hastened by the need to expand demo. If we weren't expanding demolition and having the conversations we're having about that with council, these things would happen. They may not happen as quickly. So I think this has been a great moment for us because again, my jurisdiction does include the land bank to get more serious about the things that are working and to get serious about fixing the things that are broken.
So I know you got to get out of here, but we're going to answer some questions first before you do so. So if we can please cut down on long statements, ask the question, he's going to give an answer, and give your fellow resident an opportunity to do the same. And we'll start over here with Ms. Lee.
First is the state.
Hold the mic.
You just said it.
Hold the mic.
I'm holding it.
No, that turn it on. You got to turn it on.
Okay, on the news today, the mayor of the city of Detroit was on, and he said that the demolition in the higher income areas was over, and they were going to start doing demolition in other areas. So, and then he said it's one Detroit. This is coming from the mayor. Now he said high income areas. So that means when our districts have been divided, the city has been divided, that high income areas in District 1 got all of their demolition done, and everyone on the east side of the Southfield Expressway, no demolition was done. So that's going on all over the city, and you are targeting high income areas to get these things. Second thing, I went to a meeting about the land bank and how you buy houses. Most of the people that are coming out to those meetings are trying to invest in property, and it was said, whoever was there, that if you buy a house at auction, you have to hold on to the house for 3 years. You have to go downtown. Well, the question was asked, who does the inspection? They said you have 6 months, and that had to be asked to get that property up to par, okay, with all the problems that's wrong in the house. Then they said, well, if you call once a month and let them know that you maybe install the toilet or fix the sink or something like that, then at the end of the 6 months you can get an extension. But they did not clarify that you had to be the homeowner and remain in that property. So we're going to have a lot of slum lords buying up these properties, sitting somebody in them and saying they own and have their mail going to those addresses. There are a lot of problems going on. And all this money that you're saying that's gonna be available, no, I don't want it to go to the city. I don't want the mayor or anybody else to be responsible for it. I want it to go through city council. I wanna see a financial statement of where money is being spent and how it's being spent, because we've gone through this too long saying the city is broke, money pops up, and then administrative fees, we have to find offices. If all of these departments are coming up, place them in the city county building. They should not have to have outside offices in other buildings. How much is administrative fees is going to go for some of this? There are a lot of questions to ask that people aren't asking. And yes, we do need to get out and vote and be clear that we want to know exactly what's going on, how the money is being used, and who's doing it.
All right.
So, I would just think, so first things first, the HHF money had to be spent in places with highest occupancy. If you put that map on top of a map of places with high income, that's where a lot of those, that's where many people have stayed. This is going to allow us to do demolition everywhere. It was not east side or west side, it was all about the specific census tracts where the number of people. But now, with these resources, we'll be able to do more places. Well, then we shouldn't have. Then we should not have. We couldn't accept the money then.
Well, first it was designed to help keep people in their homes. We, as the city, requested it to be utilized for demolition. So again, let's level set. With that same, even if it was the dollars that were to be used, the HHF funds, if they were used to help keep people in their homes, would that defined area still be the same? Or because we chose demolition, we had to now utilize it in the areas that we did?
The second. I think it's the second one.
Because we chose demolition,
that's right.
We now had to use it in certain areas, whereas before we would have just used it or a mixture of.
I actually wasn't here for that part of the decision.
I know you
5 years
I know.
ago, so I don't remember that.
So you're not sure. You're not sure that's okay. We don't want you to come on.
Well, this is a real sore spot for me, the demolition. First of all, my question is when we did demolition with some funds that we got after the bankruptcy, and we tore down a lot of houses. We don't know what the number is. I think the councilman asked how successful we were with the first project, but if you don't know how many homes candidates for demolition, how in the world by the time you end the project you're going to know how successful you were in completing? And the other problem that we got is that if you tear down 100,000 houses in Detroit, by the time you get done, there's another 100,000 ready to be torn down again. So demolition is not the problem. And we don't want the mayor and you guys tearing the city down. If you drive down the street, you got a house here, you got about 5 or 10 vacant lots. The grass is up here. I cut my grass twice a week, at least once a week. You cutting it 4 times a month. When it rains, the grass grows up. When you tear a building down downtown, before it's torn down and before someone buys it, he's got to tell you exactly what he's going to do with it. And we've been tearing buildings down downtown, and if you go down there, there's no 4 or 5 blocks, empty blocks, with nothing occupied. Even if it's a parking lot, it's paved, it looks nice downtown. You guys are tearing the city down. Tearing a house down is not rebuilding the city. It's tearing it down, one house at a time. And we're tired of it. We're tired. We're tired. We don't want any more demolition.
So, duly noted. Questions? Any questions?
How you doing? Thanks for coming out. I have a question firstly about if there is pressure applied to this this bond. Last time there was a bond being passed, there was a lot of pressure without knowledge on it. And I see that we're doing a lot more reconnaissance, answering questions and whatnot before we get to the actual vote of it, and I appreciate that. Secondly, what is the payment for paying this back, and what kind of demolition could we use just for that? If we had that as our budget to tear things down and just do what we can do, what about doing that instead of taking a bond?
So for the next 5 years, we have access to something called our plan of adjustment fund, and that's $30 million a year for residential for 5 years, and that would allow us to maintain about 20 to 30% of the demolition production we have today. So we would basically go from doing 3,000 to 4,000 houses a year now down to about 1,000. That's what we could do certainly for the next 5 years. Now, I mean, that's the short answer to your question. And I think the concern is that, frankly, the increase in the property values in the city, the other things that have happened have been the result of an increased level of demolitions over the last 5 years. Before, going back to just the resources you mentioned would put us a little closer to what had been done in previous administrations. Instead of 100 demos a week, 25. So that's the answer to the question. And one other thing you asked, the number of years. So we'll be financing this over a period of 30 years. This interest rate that we would be getting is one of the lowest that we could potentially get. What you typically do is refinance your bonding to get the best interest rate. There's a better interest rate environment now than there has been in probably 50 years. So we might get, even with our credit, we might get a 3% interest rate on this.
Well, that's what they said last time too, and then they pressured you into doing it without any answers. Not you personally, it was a different thing. I'm not sure what it was, but there was a bond at the same time. There was no information given.
I do remember in previous administration there were bonds that were used for operating funds and other stuff, and that's not the case in this one. But I appreciate there are a lot of due diligence being done by advocates, by the council, and others, and we're here for that.
So what we want to do is make sure we kind of go back and forth on some of the side of the room. We're going to go get on the side next, and we're going to come back.
Good afternoon. I have a number of questions, but I'm just going to keep it to two because I know everyone else has questions. But mine's falling behind those two. I know that when you say $250 million, $260 million, it sounds like a lot of money. But are you going to have heavy hitters coming on board who's making 6-digit figures, which deplete that because you will have to pay those people? So that depletes the funding that is actually going to go towards trying to demo these homes across the city. I don't think the mayor's office should be involved, period, because he's not a trustworthy entity. I do apologize for saying that, but we need to make sure as taxpayers, the money that you are borrowing, because we're already in debt, and if we go to the bank to try to borrow some more money when we're in debt, they say no or tack a higher interest. We need to make sure that these monies will go across the city in doing what needs to be done. And on another note, I love Councilman Tate, but I got a house over there by me that needs to be torn down. It's been up for 20 years. Boarded. 20 years. Everything else has been torn down around it. I make sure that me and my son go out and clean it up and also run out the dope dealers to try to come in. It needs to come down. It's an eyesore. But please watch our dollars because we will be held accountable to pay this money back. And the mayor's office does not need to get involved, period. Because they've already shown and proven to us what they do.
And that's why we all should be asking for a financial.
Doesn't sound like there was a question. Any question on this side? We want to come back over on this side as well.
Could I take one point of clarification?
No, we got to move on. We got to move on. Oh, you can just.
Oh, I was just going to say there is, as a requirement of what the council members have done, a lot more financial reporting and review, and there's going to be independent review bodies as well. So,
are we going to see that? Are the citizens going to see that?
We'll make sure it's public.
So that we know where our money is going.
Yes.
So they can't say the city is broken.
Absolutely.
Okay, my question is basically on. My question is basically on the demolitions. All right, as you guys go by and demo the houses and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Let's just say you demo 4 houses in one neighborhood. Mm-hmm. All right. Within the following week, you have the illegal dumping. Okay, that's happening. Okay. okay? Is there some money allocated out there, you know what I'm saying, to basically, you know, put up signs, you know, get in touch with the neighborhood community and stuff like that, basically put up like neighborhood watches and stuff like that, because basically you guys are demoing the houses, all right? And yeah, property value will go up, okay, because now you don't have all these demos and all these, you know, broken down houses and stuff like that, because nobody wants to move into a place that basically they got, you know, saying trashy houses and stuff like that, okay? But the problem is, once you guys demo, the illegal dumping starts, the grass starts to grow just like people do, stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? The community basically say, okay, well, you know, who's going to take care of this stuff right there? I'm pretty sure you guys want to have some, you know, some funds available for, you know, saying lawn services and stuff like that, or, you know, saying to whatever have you. But how much of that money is going to be, you know, put out there to prevent, you know, for the property value to actually go up, you know? What, I mean, because...
So you're saying what intentionally...
Yeah, exactly.
What are you going to be doing to increase the value?
To increase the value of your property.
Two things. So, first one's immediate and direct. $10 million a year in that plan of adjustment money that we will get no matter what is going to be dedicated to non-structural blight. So what that means is, I think there's an item here we talked about doing additional mowing. There's an item here we talked about having sting operations, having signs, other things to prevent illegal dumping. Boulders, telephone poles, all the things we do to protect land from getting illegally dumped, and also cleaning it up. That's a commitment that we are making in here. It's also already in the budget. So there's going to be money that was being spent on board ups before. Now that we're taking these houses down, it's all going to be directed towards doing things like the illegal dumping things you talked about. That's the first thing. Second thing is just as important. We're going to be doing neighborhood plans, and if you see some of the outcomes of our neighborhood plans, there's going to be, you know, new parks, new open spaces that are maintained and operated by the city. There's going to be a lot of new features like that will prevent illegal dumping as well, with pieces of property that are large enough. And then hopefully, and we're excited about new single-family housing sometime.
Do we have a timeline on that?
Yes, we do. We believe that what we have, because as you've seen with Northwest Grand River and that, you know, we've been able to announce a plan and then within a year begin implementing parts of it. We're going to first do the illegal dump, the non-structural blight investment, and then when plans are completed, we're going to have the capital to do the new parks, the new residential investments. I mean, that's all listed in this commitment.
So we're going to bounce on this side, one more on this side, and we're going to go over, but we want to be respectful of your time. I know you sent me something earlier that said you actually had to get out of here at 12:45.
So there's another group of
we're getting really close.
Another groups of advocates and residents that I had to talk to soon. I think we have another 10 minutes.
They
are not. They're not. But Detroit 21 asked me to come talk to them, so I'm going to come talk to them today.
But tell them you're here with the community. That's like community organizations. This is the community here. So absolutely. I'll speak to my representative on Detroit 21 and let them know that is
everybody
what we're doing.
hand up. Always answer that question.
My man, I appreciate it. So how many hands do we have that have questions? All right, yeah, one. You got the time? You say you got the time?
3,
Count
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right. You might need to text them right now. Let them know. Yeah. So again, if we can be very brief with the questions, because he's been very generous with time. We're going to have a full-blown. Some of you may or may not know. There's going to be a discussion, a committee of the whole, on Monday down at the City Council. Coleman A. Young and the Ford Underground will also be free parking as well. So it's a little challenging, I know, but it's an area where the central area where we can get 500 people in that auditorium to hear this information, some of which you're going to hear there. There's maybe some new information, but it gives you an opportunity to get some of your questions answered that you may not have today. So, I'm sorry, the time, 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. So we wanted to make sure it's Monday, this upcoming Monday, 5 p.m. We want to do it, make sure that it was when people were closer to getting off work. I know some folks getting off work at 5, but we had to still be realistic because there's going to be a lot of folks, and every person who's there have an opportunity to provide public comment. And so you can only imagine how long that's going to be. So, Ms. Smith.
I have two questions, two short questions, please. So in number 19, you mentioned surplus funds. Where will those surplus funds come from? The 250 or city operating?
The plan of adjustment there has surplus funds in it currently for the next 5 years. Right now, 10 million are dedicated to non-structural blight, 10 million for commercial demo, and 30 million for residential demo. That's before any bond proceeds.
The second one is, as we know, there are buyers who buy multiple homes from the city of Detroit at auction, and they just let them go to blight. So they should be responsible for cleaning up their blighted properties. That 250 million should not be used to take care of these owners' properties. Is that considered?
I agree with that, and part of the Land Bank MOU, the number 2 issue with Land Bank MOU is you have to find a way for them to do better compliance with the people who buy houses, so that when they're buying them, we know that they can maintain them.
So for now,
that money's not going to help them. It's going to help us get these other houses down.
So is there a plan in place to get?
No, wait, hold on. But there are some properties that are going to be owned by other folks that we're going to knock down, but there'll be a lien on them.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure, because that sounds like the question that she was asking.
Right. The people who buy all of these houses and just let them go to blight should not have the opportunity for us to pay for their neglect.
So they have a lien. So it just means they won't be able to sell the house. But it doesn't mean that they will have to come out of their pockets.
Okay. Further investigation. Thank you.
Other hands?
Since we're hitting everybody, he said he made a commitment to stay through, so I was doing the back and forth because I knew he wasn't going to be able to stay. But since we're going to hit every question.
Excuse me. Thank you. I have 3 quick questions. The bond that you have, will the citizens be able to vote for it, or the city council will decide that issue?
City council decides to put it on the ballot for the citizens to vote.
Oh, they are going, okay. Do they have some of that money, instead of tearing down the houses, to try to repair them? Because if they repaired them, that would mean another tax base, and the fewer the houses, I'm going to assume that the city will have to recover that cost by raising the houses that are in existence taxes, because they have to make up for these thousands or hundreds of thousands of houses that they're tearing down.
So we made a commitment to use at least 10% of the bond proceeds to rehabilitate vacant houses today, and we're hoping to do more than that.
So the majority is going to go into destroying the houses as opposed to refurbishing.
So that's correct. I think I will tell you from my experience, I've done, at this point, me or my team members have done hundreds of single-family rehabs in the city. Many of these houses, it costs maybe $20,000 to knock a house down. Rehabilitating one of these houses can cost, I would say that the median cost is about $80,000. So unless the money won't go far enough with rehabs, it has to be a combination of the two. I'd love it to be more than 10%. I'm going to be working to make sure that it is, but we can guarantee at least 10%.
So let me ask this, and I'm going to cut you off real quick. So does that mean that we're making a decision, a financial decision, to tear down a house that could be repaired, as opposed to repairing it?
The great news is that each house is going to get evaluated for that purpose. We're not going to just waste a house. We're going to say, if we put $20,000 in rehabbing this, would someone else put the other $60,000? Could the city put in some additional other money to keep that house? We're making a decision about every one of them.
Your statement just sounds like that. So
who is deciding that factor? I'd like to really see that. I'd like to see that any house that can't be almost fixed for $20,000, does the public get to see any of that?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to share all the analysis we do. I mean, I think we have a notion that these houses can all be fixed. Many of them can, but the problem is our money, the money we have, can get us so far. Someone else has to be part of many of those.
I got that, the 20,000.
So last one, because we got to pass on. We got a lot of folks who still have questions.
Can I get your card at the end?
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't know if in candor, I'm not sure if I brought my card today, but I'll put my number on it.
Raise your hand again if you have a question. All right, so we're looking.
5 more.
We're watching.
So I came in a little late, and I just wanted to know your title and if there is contact information where I can email or call you at a later date.
Absolutely. Group Executive for Planning, Housing, and Development. And my email address is ajemison@detroitmi.gov. Jemison like the astronaut.
And he's a big fish. He's part of the cabinet. So let you know we got a big fish in the room here.
Sure. AJEMISON@detroitmi.gov.
Okay. In my neighborhood, they had security for divination. And the next 5 years, are they gonna have security for somebody do demolition?
Are they going to have security? You were asking if they're going to have security on demolition sites? Yes. In particular, in places where there's been crime issues and others, there's going to be security there. Also, when the demolitions are taking place, to make sure that the workers are being looked after.
In light of the mayor's recent responses to some other audits and concerns and his performance in response to those, you're talking about this is a resolution, and I'm coming back to that question again that I asked earlier. A resolution is something that, as I understand it, is something that we would like to have happen, and an ordinance is a city rule that has to happen. So how will we know that with these resolutions that these things will actually happen in light of the current culture that says that, well, maybe I'll discipline someone for deleting the emails or not deleting the emails. Maybe I will respond to you and say that it really was something involved. So how does this carry weight, I guess is the question. Does this carry weight? And Mr. Tate, if you can answer that as well.
I'll let Arthur go first. The answer I want to give is just too long for today. You are one of many citizens who has asked me this question. And I got to be honest, it's a toughie for me because I understand very intimately why you have the questions you have. And again, I think the conversation we're having is indicative of it. It's got weight because the council, there's nothing, well, certainly for me and everybody that I work with, there's nothing more powerful than being held accountable by citizens for what we do. Maybe it's me, I'm easily embarrassed. I'm not going to put something down I ain't going to do. And so spent the last 2 months working with the council to say we're going to do these things. I'm going to do them. I also want to be fair. That may not be enough, right? You need this guy to say something similar to that, and you need us to do that together. If there's a way to make it even more serious, I think we're willing to do that. The one thing I would highlight is the review board. We're going to get citizens involved in making sure we're responsible. My experience with Detroiters is that they're pretty clear about whether they're happy about whether we're doing a good job.
And so, quite honestly, there is no way for us to definitively know right now that everything on that sheet of paper is going to happen. That is about trust. That is about making sure that, and the levels of accountability is based upon what's in the charter. We have the ability to ask, to request, but there's no definitive answer that we can say, that I can give you that says everything on that list will happen by this set period of time. Because to be honest, I don't have all that information right now. There's still some question marks on how it's going to be implemented, when it's going to be implemented. We have seen some things that have been handshakes, and they have not been fulfilled. Members of the administration will come and they'll take their lashings, and they'll sometimes do something different and do it the right way, but the damage is done. Again, that's about trust. It's not so much about the action itself. And the other thing is, as much as I love this guy, I really, really, really have a lot of respect for him. He's an appointee. He's not the mayor. And he worked on this. He's worked on it hard. And I believe him when he says that he's going to do everything he can to make sure that he fulfills his end of the bargain. But, you know, at one point in time, Arthur had a really nice job that was in front of him over at DEGC. And I'm glad that he wasn't able to take that job, but he wasn't able to take it based upon some charter things. But in the event that someone does give him an offer he can't refuse, now we have somebody else that sits in that seat, and they may not have the same heart and spirit as this gentleman we have in front of us. Because we can't at this point. We can't go through the ordinance piece. It's got to go through. All of these items haven't even been baked yet. They haven't even been baked. We're right now at the point where we're probably on Tuesday going to have 5 or 6 more red items on this list. So can some of this end up being ordinance? Yeah. Overall, we don't even have it all baked yet. And that's being completely honest with you. And the other piece that I think we failed to mention, in order for it to go on the March ballot, it has to be voted on by council by December 2nd? December 17th. December 17th. City Council goes on recess, its legislative recess, November 26th. So now you're seeing more, that's now, again, it's in front of everyone. Next, I think she had one back here as well.
Okay, I have
really quickly, if we can.
A two-part question. The first part where it says contractors that have been pre-qualified, demolition contractors. Does that mean they are already on board? They have already been contracted to do the demolition?
They have not yet been selected to do
They have not yet been selected, because there's discussions that Mayor Duggan had put a lot of his cronies into those positions to do the demolitions.
Whenever there is a lot of money being expended, it's important to have safeguards, and I can assure you that to the extent I've been involved, that's not the case, but there's a pre-qualification process. So where you apply and you ask to be considered for bids. That hasn't happened yet.
Okay, part B, where it says there will be the second resolution, there will be let's see, lost my spot.
The department?
Maybe the first resolution.
The demolition department or the demolition
the one that
board?
says the members of the review board, that the mayor gets to select 3 people on the review board. Should he have that power to select 3 members of that'll be.
So I think having 3 members from the administration, 3 members from the city, I was part of recommending it. I think it's an appropriate way to do it. What it means is that, you know, just like Councilmember Tate said, maybe there's different council, maybe there's a different, you know, it would be good to have 3 people who both of them hold in high esteem to make those decisions, and 1 person to break ties who they both select.
So I will say, in fairness, there are many boards that we have that are like that have that composition where the mayor appoints a certain amount and the council appoints a certain amount, and we have a joint appointee as well. So this is not something that's different than some of the.
Well, he has such a cloud over his head right now. I was just wondering. Yeah.
And again, to Arthur's point, we have to also look at not just this mayor, but how in this council, but moving forward.
Right.
But it's being asked now.
Yeah.
Yep. So next question, we got it.
And I have a.
But we can't go here because we had a commitment. We had a commitment over here because he's got to get out of here. I'm just letting you know.
Hi, my question was about the dumping and the blight on my street, West Parkway Street. It's been dumping valley. All they do is come middle of the night, dump tires, furniture, clothes, because there's no homes, no families living. And there's 2 homes on my block where there's people living, and 2 homes right next to us. That's the last other homes that haven't been demolished They won't demolish. I don't know why they haven't, because they've been standing since I've been there, empty. But how do we get help with that, the dumping? Where's the cameras in the area that's gonna protect us on that street? Because
So Ron Brundage, DPW director, is the person who works on illegal dumping and who organizes and makes sure that the sting operations on people doing illegal dumping are organized. He's also the person who, with the trash team, cleans up all the illegal dumping when it's reported. Have you reported all this illegal dumping using
I have reported it, but the thing about it is, like I say, it's two of us.
Okay.
So I'll say there's nothing, let's be completely
Nothing
transparent, there's
you can
nothing
really
in the
do.
resolution that deals with that particular issue. And nothing about this bike proposal that will deal with that issue. But that's why I was mentioning earlier, Carla Williamson, she is here, the district manager for the
Okay.
district, the one I was mentioning earlier. Please connect with her.
Okay, because what she was talking about with, I also was trying to ask a question about the grants. I've been trying for years to get my roof and back porch fixed. Every time I call, we don't have any, the program is over. But, so I'm never able to apply for the grants. But we can give you a 0% loan. I'm trying, I own my home, but I don't want to take out another loan on it. You know, I'm trying to help my neighborhood stay beautified, but I can't do it by myself. And if we can get some help.
Is there anything in the...
So the Blight proposal is not going to, does not have money for occupied home rehabs.
Right.
We have had 600 people who have participated in 0% home repair and have received those. In the same period, we've allocated enough money for about 400 people, 500 people to get home repair grants, and that's a very popular program. So, please put your name on the waiting list. People do, I gotta tell you.
I signed up with that AmeriCorps.
You should call my team member Val Upshaw at HRD. I'll give you her email. That VUPSHAW at DetroitMI.gov. She has the waiting list for home repair. Yep.
And remember, he gave you his email as well.
So send it to us.
I didn't have a pen.
Okay. So we have to go lightning round now.
Yep, he's got to get out of here. He's got to go. Next up on this side,
I have a couple of questions. My first question is, do we know how many minority contractors we have in the city? And just for my clarity, what is a Detroit-based business and a Detroit headquartered business?
So Member Tate knows this really well. I'm going to try to do my best to answer it. So there are about 7 or 8 demo contractors that are African American owned in the city. There's probably about 17 or 20 regular demolition contractors in the city. You are a headquartered business if the headquarters of your company is in Detroit. You're a based business if you have an office here in Detroit. Those are the ways to define it. Those are the definitions.
Okay, so if you say you're a headquartered business because you have an office here, can you bring employees from other parts of the country?
Yes. But again, if your headquarters are here, you started your company here, maybe your company's here and in Dallas, but you started your company here and this is where the headquarters are, that's when the headquarters has most of your staff members, all of your third-party contractors, they're all here, that's a headquarters.
Okay, so what happens when you move your employees who are not minorities into a city to work? They don't live in the city, but you're a headquartered company.
So the rules forbid most of that kind of behavior. There are certain, you can't, listen, they're trying to have a headquartered company grow. So if in order to grow, you need to bring someone from your Dallas office in to do it, they want you to do that, but there's, with Charity Dean running that organization, CREO, does not.
Who lives in the district.
Right, one of your, is we've done a lot about fraud there, but these you have to be certified, and you get certified every year.
Next up.
I just have a quick question. Is there any monies that's allocated to commercial property that's been abandoned?
Yes. So each year there's $10 million of blight funds from the plan of adjustment that's spent on commercial demo. As well, we spend about $2.5 to $3 million a year of community development block grant funding on commercial demo.
Doug?
Hi, I have a bunch of questions.
Yeah, hit it. Let's go, because we gotta get out of here, man.
So I have some process questions. You said November 26th was the last day that this could happen?
No, 17.
Okay.
No, well, November 26th is when you adjourn, though, right? So there's not the possibility of a vote happening after that?
Council members are pretty much unready to come back after
Cool.
recess.
Okay, so one, why not push at least that far? And two, why not push out into the November ballot when there's going to be a significantly higher turnout and a lot more time for policy discussion, because this feels very rushed.
Yep, he touched that. Hit it real
Sure.
quick, Jim.
So, why? Because there's going to be a very significant reduction in the number of demolitions taking place in the city, or what will probably be, and I know people say, oh, that sounds like nonsense. It really will be 9 to 12 months of remobilization to get up to the same scale that we're at today. And so I think we would like to avoid that, and that's why we're going in March.
Then why didn't this start 6 months ago? Like, this is incredibly rushed.
I actually respectfully disagree that it's rushed. I think that you're talking about something that we've had in front of the council for 2 months and spent
You're
months
doing the
before
public
that
briefing on this for a vote on Tuesday. Nobody's going to have time to digest this.
Okay, I disagree with you. I've spent, the last 3 months coming to meetings like this, not just in this district, but other districts, and having conversations like this. That's
Okay.
where I got the comments and changes that are here in this resolution.
Next question.
So, I don't see any language to address right of return or illegal overassessment in this. Has that been discussed?
So I'm keenly aware of the claims about overassessment.
Claims?
And yeah, claims.
Okay.
And I'm keenly aware of the right of return issues that you're mentioning. I've had at least 3 or 4 meetings with the professor who has had this line of questioning, and she and I are, I think, have a similar level of disagreement about this that it seems that you and I have.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a sort of "we're going to explore land trust." That doesn't seem very explicit.
The city council approved a contract last year for $500,000 we did with Grounded Solutions to explore land trust.
Yeah.
And the report has recommended ways to do them.
Okay.
I expect those results to be made public soon.
And we've had
the
the
vote.
conversations with
So we're gonna make those fairly relevant results available after the vote. That seems like a problem.
I don't agree. In fact, if anything, the execution of these demolitions will make the land trust even more
Right,
right.
except you have no explicit controls for development after demolition in this. So like, hey, we're gonna do a bunch of demolition and then it's gonna end up in a land trust. Would be like a really great piece of language to have in there, but isn't really something we could build in when we haven't finished the study you're talking about, which is one more reason I think this is rushed.
Okay, question.
Thank you for your
next. Did we get all the questions up? I think there was one last one back there.
Just have a basic question. I mean, this is a pretty big amount of money, this bond issue. It's a debt instrument. And as a widow of one of Detroit's finest that lost her health care in the last bankruptcy, and where's the money coming from to pay off this bond issue? Is this going to raise our taxes or income tax?
So, as I shared earlier, this is coming out of existing mills. There's no new mills that are being added, and we do not expect this to in any way increase taxes.
Can you do one last one? Because she comes every week, and we've got to give her respect. She's got. Now, is it about the bond proposal? Because if it's about demolition, if it's just about the house. I know you got the house next to it. I'm not saying just about, but he can't talk about that issue. It's about the bond proposal. He can't talk about demolition as a whole. Yes, ma'am.
What I want to talk about is I had the reason why I'm late.
because that vehicle out there in front, everybody can see, cost me $400 this morning because there's rodents running around, and I own 2 vehicles, which means now I gotta find out if my truck has the wiring chewed up.
Are the weeks? She's been coming
Wait a
for
minute,
weeks.
this is gonna be my last meeting. I am going to sell my house and move, because I'm tired.
We need to provide some assistance, and Carl, I know you're aware of it as well. I, as council, don't have the ability to do some of the things that's being requested.
What's happening?
The house behind me on Ventler, 19784, has been vacant for numerous years. I have been complaining about it ever since. Right this minute, the basement windows are open, the side door is open, the front door has a board that leans this way. Anybody can get in. Plus, the lady next door to me has a swimming pool that she covered with plywood for years. Now it's got a big hole in it. So lately, when I let my dog out at night, he barks. He's not a barker. That tells me there's something running around, there's something in that house. I want you to see my house because I've spent a lot of money. I got the best looking house on the block. I can't do it anymore.
And she's voiced this to us as well as the mayor, administration, and still it's in the same situation.
I've been put off for years.
So,
I'm tired.
So can I get your address and I will make sure you get back.
You can call animal control because they're coming out to bait my yard now. They bait once.
So I want to, we'll talk afterward. I want to we got to thank Arthur Jemison for staying here, staying over. I know you got to let them know that we kept you longer. But we appreciate you coming and educating us.
Again, I appreciate all the questions, guys. You know, it's a public debate. I'm good for it, right? We're here to hear, listen to you, and whatever ways comes out, we're gonna move forward.
All right. Safe travel. Safe travel. So I know we didn't get a chance to go through any of the other issues that we had. Who can stick around for a couple more minutes if there's some issues that are still lingering that have not been addressed? I think that was a very important conversation. Right. No, we're going, but they got to do it. We called. I'm telling you. So we got to figure it out. If you have any issues that you don't want to put out before everybody, Aisha is here. She will collect your information and we will work on those items and bring you back a response and follow up. Yes, sir.
I have an issue on Berg Road. On Berg Road, they are tearing up the sidewalks again. They did this about 2 years ago. They just repaved Berg Road from 7 Mile to 8 Mile. They're tearing out all the curves again and putting them in. And the guy says, well, when they did the pavement, it wasn't to specs. And you can't tell the difference by looking at it from the day they took it out to the day they put it in right now. So that's a waste of money for all our neighborhoods to see, because I'm on patrol and I'm looking at it.
So it may have been a situation where the contractor didn't do what they were supposed to and they were ordered to do that job over again. We'll follow up though. Can you give the location again?
Berg Road from 7 Mile to 8 Mile.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we've seen that, Dennis.
Is it a waste of money?
That wasn't,
we
they
can't
just
see the
recently
difference.
did.
Yeah, we can't see the difference.
Okay. So we'll follow up on that one. Anybody else in the rapid fire really quickly? Aaron?
Will Grand River end up like Livernois, where they go in and do all this, put the island in and put this and that in, then they come back along and remove all of that?
So no, there's not going to be any island, but what you see along Grand River between Southfield and Evergreen right now, you're going to see go through Berg Road. And that's something that has been, well, see, this is why we tell people to get involved.
So what is that, bike lanes? What is
They're
that?
bike lanes.
Where they got the big concrete.
So those are weight stations. It gives you, it's difficult for people with mobility issues to cross the street. And so what that does is it gives you an extra couple of seconds to get across Grand River.
So you need more lights. More lights.
There, no,
No, sir. I saw several cars slamming when it started that first snow. It was so many cars.
yeah, no, I understand that, but we got to slow down. I mean, but we still got to slow down. I drive it all the time. I don't love it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't love it, but I've not hit it.
I saw several cars.
I get it. But here's what I say. This is why I ask people to show up at the meetings and provide their comments in advance. I had Edwin in my office collect all of the meetings that have taken place, starting back in September of 18. Hold on, excuse me. Hold on, excuse me. But I'll let you speak. Yes, ma'am. So we've had no less than 15 group meetings in my office, as well as the planning department and HRD, which is the Arthur's group, from all the way back in September of 2018 up until now. The first meeting started right there in the Artist Village. So we send out this information. So I'm glad you're here because we can put you on a database. But it's important for people to show up because the same folks are coming to the same meetings and their decisions are what's impacting all of our lives. And I'm not saying they're bad people because we want them to do it. But if you're not in the room, all we're going to do afterwards is complain about it's terrible, it's horrible. But then if you're in the room and you voted on it and you don't see it, hold us accountable. And if you see something different than what we actually put out there, hold us accountable. But what was voted on?
Yes, I didn't know anything.
Councilman Ted, well, we were at the planning commission. And those items, we went to the first planning when it was going to be Grand River Greenfield where they started. Those islands were going to be in the center of Grand River, not on the curve of Grand River. That is not an island. If I'm crossing the street and I got bad knees, that's not going to help me get to the middle of the street. They showed islands in the middle, and if you go down 9 Mile,
I know what you're talking about.
They've got islands in the middle of the street, which makes sense. That if you get caught in traffic, you got somewhere to stand. That curve, that doesn't make any sense at all.
I remember it changed. I wasn't at all the meetings.
Well, we weren't at that meeting that it changed.
I've got to find out when it changed and what iteration. But I do recall that was in the final meeting and the people were there. But I agree with you. I do recall seeing this small little slither. Because people said, we don't want islands. I forgot what they called them. That's one of those planning terms. Bump outs. Well, but no, that bump out is what we have now. It was this little slither of concrete. Yeah, I know, and it's not. To be honest with you, it's not the safest thing because you don't want folks just sitting there in the middle when you got the traffic going. But I agree. That's what was initially proposed.
It's not helping you get across the street. If you leave the curve and have to go up on another curve, and you're standing right there, those cars are coming, and those cars are going to hit somebody. Eventually, they're going to take that out. That's bad.
We are in overtime too.
I know we are.
116.
We absolutely are.
I just think if they needed to add some type of reflective painting to indicate where those are, that might be a deterrent. Or some type of reflectors like they have at some of the stop signs downtown, they could indicate in those same areas. I'm sure it's some cost involved, but at least it would be something to deter and cause traffic to slow down because they are completely oblivious to those mediums.
Well, the bike lanes are going to be on the north side of the street. Well, the south side, not the north side.
Right.
But that is coming because they're not finished. As you see, they're still doing work along the Grand River. But that is coming. Any other rapid fire questions before we get out of here?
I have issues, so I'll just talk to her.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm Helena Scott. I am the community liaison for State Representative Latanya Garrett, who has a small portion of Councilman Tate's district. I just want to say that I left on the table. Rep. Garrett is having a town hall Monday, November the 18th, regarding insurance. So I did leave flyers on the table just in case you're interested in attending. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Last but certainly not least.
Councilman, I know you don't need any amens, but I'm just going to say this. I went to a few of those MDOT meetings, and I'm going to say it the way I saw it. the complexion of the meeting there is not the complexion of the meeting here, okay?
There's an update meeting next week at the Rosedale at GRDC office. Every Monday at 10:30. It's not every Monday, every other Monday.
Yeah, I think it's every other.
Yeah.
Yep. So, thank you. I want to make sure we get as many people as possible out on Monday. I know you all can't make it, but make sure your neighbors, everybody know we're going to put it out there. I don't want anybody saying we're making a decision in a vacuum. Monday at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center, 5 p.m. until on the 13th floor, we will be having a committee of the whole discussion and taking in comments from the community regarding the black bond proposal that Arthur Jemison just mentioned today. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. December 7th. Just really quickly.
All right, everybody.
How's everybody doing? How many people here have been to the potluck before, District 1 potluck? Can you raise your hands? All right, hopefully everybody can attend. It's a great time, end of the year. Let off some steam, just relax, just fellowship and fun. Not an agenda, no meeting or anything like that. We'll have some entertainment. Food, we are asking those who would like to please bring a food donation. You can go through Yelena over there. She has a flyer. It's taking place on the 7th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Detroit Community Schools. That's 12675 Burt, B-U-R-T Road. Hopefully everybody can attend. We have a fun time there. You do not have to bring a dish in order to attend, but we do appreciate it. So please take the flyer and hopefully you guys can attend. This is the last satellite hours for this year. We will resume third Saturday in January. Oh, thank you. That's the second time today that happened. Canned food, thank you, Ms. Gibbs. All right, so we also collect canned foods and non-perishable items for Forgotten Harvest. We've done so for about 5 years now. We've raised maybe about literally 3 tons of canned goods over the years. So bring some canned goods or non-perishables with you when you come to the potluck. 11 a.m. December 7th at Detroit Community Schools, 12675 Burt, B-U-R-T Road. Hope to see you there. Thank you. And lastly,
you said Saturday, you said Friday.
Thank you. Third Friday in January. Thank you. I got potluck on the brain.
Lastly, y'all, let's give it up for the Java House for letting us have another year in the Java House. This is a great opportunity, great location, great space. Make sure you come and patronize on days we're not here as well. Safe travels, y'all.
Like,